This lecture will configure our patient checkout Lambda in the template.aml file with all the resources that it needs. Open the template.aml, go to the end of it, get rid of this output section which we don't need. Change the Lambda function name to patient checkout Lambda or patient checkout function. Patient checkout is the function name, followed by the code URI will be patient checkout. That is the folder we have, patient checkout. The handler function, go back to Eclipse, grab the package name from up top, come back, paste it on top of hello world, and the class name, grab the Lambda class name, go back, paste it on the class name app, and the handler function is not handle request, it is handler. That's the function name which we have used. Next, we'll leave these as it is. We'll come back to them in a second. Let's start by defining the very first resource that we need for this Lambda. It is a S3 bucket. Call it patient checkout bucket. This is of type space AWS : S capital 3 : B capital. Everything else is small bucket. It will create a resource of type S3 bucket, and we need to provide the bucket name under properties element or key. We use bucket name, B capital, N capital, : The bucket name you can provide any unique value. The easiest way to get a unique value is using the sub function, the intrinsic function, and using the stack name, the account ID, the region, and you can append whatever you want to keep it unique. Dollar within flower brackets AWS : stack, S capital, stack name. This will give us the stack name when this is deployed, hyphen dollar, flower brackets again, AWS : account ID, A capital, I capital, ID, hyphen the last one, dollar within flower brackets, AWS all capital, : region. So that will use the stack name, the account ID, and the region. If you want to append more, you can use whatever you want, hyphen, and then you can define whatever random text you want in your bucket name. I'm going to leave it right there. Now we have a S3 bucket. Next, we use this S3 bucket in the events section of our Lambda, because the S3 bucket is what is triggering the Lambda function. So in the events section, define a new event, call it S3 event. S3 event type is S3, not API. Earlier we used to have payment gateway, but now the type is S3. Under properties, you define a bucket and the event that needs to be handled. Instead of path, it will be bucket, and the bucket name we use the reference, not ref intrinsic function, space, use the bucket name which we have defined up top. That will get the reference to that bucket. So whenever that event is triggered by this bucket, for which events, the next key is the events key, S3 : object created. When objects are created, : star, we want to handle all those events. Object created, O capital, C capital. So that is how we configure events from S3 to our Lambda function. Next, we need to define the policies. If we forget that, we'll have security issues later on. So policies can go right here. I'm leaving this environment as it is because we need it later on. After the memory size, here we can define the policies, : hyphen, space, S3 capital, read policy. We want to read from S3, our Lambda function should be able to do that. Read policy, : provide the bucket name. Here we can use some spacing. I'm using 2 spaces right under R. Bucket name, : you can copy this bucket name from up top here. So this bucket name will be generated and used. So we need to use the same bucket name here, space, and then copy that. So now our Lambda function will have the required policy permissions to read from this bucket S3 read policy. So in this lecture, you have configured your Lambda function with the right code URI, the name and all that. And then you have also created the S3 bucket, which is the resource we need, and also configured that S3 bucket event so that when the file is uploaded to the S3 bucket, it will fire an event which will trigger this Lambda function implicitly. And then we have defined a policy for the bucket so that our Lambda function will be able to read from that S3 bucket. The contents that we upload can be read. That is the code we have in here, reading from the S3 bucket.